Good morning, everybody. Let's wait one more minute so we can allow everybody to join. In the meantime, I can start already with the presentation. So just for your information, this session is going to be recorded and we will make it available in our EMA YouTube channel and also in the event webpage. As always, we are using a Slido to gather your questions and to track any questions that you might have. Interaction via Slido is voluntary and you may opt to remain anonymous, but if you are sharing your name, then you consent to the processing of your personal data as we have explained in the EMA data privacy statement in Slido. In the next page, I think, well, before that, I would like, because it's a comment that we have received previously, please make sure that you review the questions that we have in Slido and you don't send the same questions again and again. You can upvote the questions that someone else have already been submitted. So please review those questions. It will facilitate the management and the amount of questions that we receive. Here you have the QR code that you can use to access the Slido, or you can also join at slido.com, and then with the hashtag PMS Q&A, you will be able to access and ask your questions. Before we start with the questions, I would like to give you a bit of information of the upcoming events. So as you already know, we have a couple of Q&A clinics on PMS API and also on the product UI. The one of today, 22nd of October, then we have another one on the 5th of November and also on the 22nd of November. The next webinar that we have, and this is due to the amount of comments that we received from the last webinar that we made for the PMS product UI, and what to do with the non-cap products. It is true that it was very fast. We should have maybe given a bit more time for the training, explaining how the UI works, etc. So we will have a follow-up webinar on the product UI on the 29th of October. In this time, it will last 2 hours, so we will have enough time to go through the user interface, give instructions, give key actions for MA holders, etc. So please, you can already register in the link. This presentation will be made available, and you can also look for it on the EMA event webpage. Then on the 25th of November, we'll have a webinar that will be focused on the submission of manufacturers and manufacturing business operations to PMS in order to support ESMP. The registration is already available, so you can feel free to join and register for this webinar. And then on the 12th of December, we will have the public system demo, as always, at the end of every quarter. So we will also welcome you to join this webinar. With this information, then you have again this QR code that you can scan, and then you will be directly joining the Slido session. Or you can also join slido.com, and then with the hashtag PMS Q&A, you will be able to access and you can start sending your questions. So with this information, I think we can start. I don't see any question for the moment, unless...
No, indeed. For now, we don't have any questions. They will show automatically here.
Okay, so we have 85 participants. Maybe there are no questions, and then this is fine as well. We can wait for a couple of minutes.
Yes. Okay. Okay, they're starting to come. Okay, first one. When will we have a UAT for read and write operation available?
Okay, so for the moment there is no UAT for read. There is only production, And then for the right capability, we will open a UAT, but only for specific testers that are based on made by the SMEs. So industry and national competence authorities will be testing this capability. But for the moment, there is no public UAT environment. We will be discussing if there is the need to open any kind of UAT environment for these purposes. But for the moment, we don't have anything that is available. But again, we will be discussing this with the SMEs.
Okay, thank you. What is the preferred tool to use, PMS API or UI?
Well, that depends on each company. So the fact that you use the PMS API means that you should be able to connect directly to the PMS API, and therefore you might need a system installed in your company that allows you to retrieve the information from the PMS API, then send the data to the PMS API, and not all companies will have this tool implemented internally. That's why EMA is also providing the user interface. This is similar to XMPD. We have EV-Web, but we also have companies submitting data through the gateway. So in principle, both options are fine. That only depends on how each company wants to manage the data, either through the product UI or through the PMS API. There is no preferred tool to be used.
Okay, thank you. When will Knaps packaging description reflecting PMS per XMPD? Right now, the packaging description is still reflecting from SciMed for Knaps. Only our 2 CAP products out of 52 have pack description reflected in PMS as submitted in XMPD.
Okay, so the answer to this question is never. If you check chapter 7, where we have the migration rules, so from SciMed XMPD to PMS, at the end of this chapter, we have Annex 1, which explains for each and every PMS field where this data is coming from. And for Knaps, it is stated that the package description is always coming from SciMed. So in SciMed, we have different structure fields, and we have concatenated those fields. So we have the pack size, we have the material, we have sometimes the amount, if we have vials, etc. So for pack sizes, for Knaps, the package description will always come from SciMed, never from XMPD. You might have these 2 Knaps with data coming from XMPD, but these products most likely are nullified. The only thing is that you are able to see them in the product UI because we have this issue, one of the known issues. They will disappear in 1 week. We will remove all these nullified products from the product UI because centrally authorized products where the authorization country is EU will never come only from XMPD. We need to have first one from SciMed, and then we will do the match and merge with XMPD. But we will never have only Knaps from XMPD.
Thank you. Next, for some Knaps product, PMS IDs are being created on the basis of content of the presentation in milliliters. Why is that, as this is not in the one of the defining characteristic?
So I would need to review maybe this specific case, but we have not created products and therefore PMS IDs based on this content of the presentation. We have created these products from SciMed based on the structure that we have in SciMed and the business rules that we have defined. So in this case, I would suggest you to open a service desk ticket with the product, because we can then check if SciMed is correct, if the information that is displayed there is also correct, and how the migration has been performed. But in principle, we have applied the same business rules, the IDMP rules, on SciMed. So it is based on the product name, the active substance, the strength, the EMI holder. So it should, I mean, that shouldn't be the case. So we can review it if needed.
Thank you. EMA has recommended to add national code to the package description for non-caps individual pack sizes, and also said a list of these national codes will be made available by EMA. Is there such a list?
So yes, we don't have a list with the national codes for each product. We have a list of which code should be used per country. So, for example, in Spain, we have something that is called Código Nacional. In Belgium, there is something like that is called CTI Extended. In I don't know, Germany, there is something different. In France, they have this CPI, etc. So there is a table with this information. Then MA holders are responsible for knowing each national ID for each of their packages. This list is already available in the webinar that we did for submission of pack sizes. There is a reference to these slides on the chapter 3.2 of XMPD, where we explain how to submit pack sizes. And also we are working on the update Q&A document for PMS, and this document will also contain this table. But the table is already available. If you look for chapter 3.2 of XMPD, then you look for how to submit the pack sizes. There is a direct link to this presentation and to this table.
Thank you. Is it possible to enrich fields in PMS through tables?
I don't know if I understand this question, but I would say the answer is no. So the enrichment of PMS will be done through the product UI or through the PMS API. That means that if you use the product UI, you will need to navigate through the product UI and start including the manufacturers and the business operations using the same structure that we have now in the product UI. And then if you use the PMS API, then we'll need to have a system who is able to write a Fire message and send it to the PMS API. But we will not have this kind of tables, Excels, or things like that, as for example, they have in ESMP. You will have to do it in a slightly different way. And we will explain all this in the manufacturers webinar that we will have in November.
Thank you. We see a large number of errors in our data migrated from XMPD. Should we create a ticket for each entity, one ticket for each error, or one ticket for all errors?
So, as we explained in the webinar that we had last week, there are already some known issues that we have in PMS. So for those, you should not open a ticket or you should not notify those because are known issues. You just need to make sure that, okay, you identify those and you know that we have those issues. For the other issues, I would recommend you to check Chapter 7 and Chapter 9 and make sure that are errors that we can fix or that are errors that you can fix in XMPD. That is important. And then it's up to you how you want to manage those errors. You can just send us one ticket with an Excel with all the findings, or you can send different tickets. That is up to you how you want to manage the different mistakes that we have found or that you have found.
Thank you. Is there anywhere a list of all EMA events? So on that, I can answer. So if you refer to PMS-related events, what you can do is two things. So I will show you. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen really quickly. Okay, so you can either go to PLM portal and then you go to PMS guidance, and here if you go under training sessions, we are making a selection of all the most relevant event web pages for PMS events. We will add here also the event web page for last week's session when the recording is available. Otherwise, you can just go to EMA website and you can go in the events here. You can use the keyword PMS, and you see that here you can see all upcoming events, which are basically the events that Marcos presented at the beginning of this session. And if you are looking for a past event, you just need to click here, past events, and you can see all past PMS events and all the web pages, event web pages, where you can find the recording, presentation, agenda. So I hope this was useful. And let's go back to the presentation. Next, we have noticed multiple duplicate entries for our medicinal product record in PMS, each with a different PMS ID. How should we manage this issue if it is not resolved by the end of this month after the update?
So if it's not managed, but I would say it will be managed, because if you have those duplicates, most likely is because we have you have nullified products. Then you need to open a service desk ticket and saying, hey, after the duplicates in principle were removed, I still have duplicates. Here you have the list, and then we will investigate. But most likely those duplicates is due to changes that have been performed in XMPD, and then that means that we are moving pack sizes from one product to another or creating new products. All this information is already in chapter 9, where we discuss the deltas, what happens if you update XMPD, grouping elements from XMPD, what is the impact on PMS. So yeah, that is, if these products remain, then you need to open a service desk ticket and we will investigate.
Thank you. As an NCA, should we check our product data in XMPD too?
Well, this is up to the NCA if you want to review the product data. What I would do is most likely I would check if, for example, all the products that I have authorized in my database are also reflected in XMPD. The problem is that it's a bit difficult because you might have packages, one EV code per package or one EV code for multiple packages, depending on the NCA. Then it would be a bit difficult to cross-check with your database. So I would do it in PMS. At the end, the data that we have in XMPD will be migrated to PMS. I would do these checks there. I think it would be easier for NCAs rather than doing it in XMPD. But it's up to the NCA.
Thank you. Medicinal product type should be as in RMS value, authorized medicinal product. PMS shows only medicinal product.
Yeah, I was actually looking for this term. It is true that in the product UI, we show medicinal product, but that doesn't mean that we don't have it mapped to authorized medicinal product. So sometimes what we do in the product UI is not showing the full name as captured in RMS, but we show the short name. It's, for example, the same with the ATC codes. For the ATC codes, we show the short name with its, I don't know, C10B, whatever. This is the short name. And then the term name would be this active substance. So I will check this. In principle, it's correct because I know that in RMS we have authorized medicinal product. We might be showing just this medicinal product, and that is not any issue. It's just how are we representing the data, which data we are showing. but it's an RMS term for sure. So no problem.
Thank you. All our XMPD inserted products are not visible in PMS, and we haven't been able to figure out why PMS has not pulled all our products from XMPD. Can you please remind us about the next steps? For example, raise a ticket in service desk.
Okay, so first of all, what you need to do is look for the Q&A document that we have in the PLM portal, where you will have all the steps. But the fact that you are missing all your products in XMPD, from XMPD in PMS, means that you have not requested the correct role in the IAM, or you have requested the correct role, but for a different organization. So what you need to do is, knowing your organization EV code from XMPD, you need to check that in OMS, the mapping between your log ID and the XMPD EV code are the same, so it's mapped. If you go to OMS, you select your log ID, then in the mappings, you will need to see your organization EV code. Otherwise, the mapping is wrong, and then you need to open a ticket saying, hey, the mapping is wrong, that's why I'm not able to see my products in PMS. Then knowing the log ID, you need to request access through IAM for the industry user role for this specific organization, and then you will be able to access all your products. So review the Q&A, review the mappings between EV and OMS, and then review also chapter 1 to make sure that you are selecting and requesting the correct user role in IAM.
Thank you. What is the source for SIAMED? Is it ECTD documents or another portal?
Yeah, so SIAMED is the internal database for EMA, where we track all these centrally authorized products. And the data captured there is coming, sometimes it's coming from the electronic application form, sometimes it's coming, for example, from the ECTD dossier, like manufacturers, and these entities are coming from module 3. So it's mainly this, the ECTD, the EAF and the ECTD dossier.
Thank you. Are active substances pulling from different levels, such as medicinal product or pharmaceutical product level? What is the source of active substance coming in PMS at both MP and PHP level? Because reports are randomly pulling AS from different levels.
Yeah, so for non-caps, which is the easy example, for non-caps, all the data is coming from XMPD. So the data that you see at the medicinal product and also the one that you see in the pharmaceutical product is coming from XMPD. Now, for caps, we also have ingredients coming from SIAMED. So in the manufacturer item, you have also a list of ingredients. These ingredients are coming from SIAMED, while the ingredients and active substance, excipients, etc., from the pharmaceutical product, these are coming from XMPD. But again, in chapter 7, you have all the rules where the data is coming from, and you can check the information there.
Thank you. Will there be guidance on how product full name has to be inserted? Some have comma behind the product name, and there are variations in uppercase and lowercase letters. As an NCA, we would like guidance on how to insert them in our systems.
I will try to discuss this with the SMEs. This is the first time we hear about that. In principle, we are just requesting the name as in the SMPC. And the SMPC, it's ruled by this QRD template. So we don't have any mandate on how to provide the name. It is as per SMPC, and then marketing authorization holders and NCAs should follow this QRD template where they have all these rules. But I will raise this with the SMEs to check if there is anything that we need to take into account. This is the first time that we received this comment.
Thank you. If a term used in RMS is non-current, how can we find an alternative for it within RMS?
That's a good question, and I would need Veronica here. I think somehow there is a preferred term or something like this, but I'm not able to reply to this question now, and Veronica, unfortunately, is not joining today, so we will be replying to this question in a slide. Sorry for that.
Okay. Thank you. We've learned during the last 4 webinars that XMPD PMS migration happens in real time, but we don't see this happening. We find last non-validated version migrated to PMS. All changes that were submitted after this were not migrated.
Changes that happens in XMPD are almost real-time migrated to PMS, and then if you access the PMS API, you will see them almost immediately. Maybe you need a couple of minutes. But changes from the PMS API to the PLM portal, so through the product UI, that takes a couple of hours to arrive because the integration routine takes time with all the products that we have in PMS. So XMPD goes to the PMS API almost immediately, then you need a couple of hours to go to the product UI. Now, if you have made changes to a product in XMPD and they are not reflected in PMS, then you need to tell us, because we have not seen this case, and we would like to investigate. It's very weird. We have not received any ticket like this saying, hey, my changes have not been migrated to PMS, or changes that I've done after the migration are not reflected in PMS. So please let us know additional information like, okay, this is the EV code, I made those changes, I'm not able to see this in PMS, so we can investigate.
Okay, thank you. Before we read the last question, just to tell you, we have launched our usual survey to get your feedback on this session, hoping it was useful to answer your questions. And for the questions we will not be able to answer, we will check them through Slido, since there are not too many. So next question, do we have any national code to be added for Northern Ireland records in XMPD, as there was no information for the same during the 11th of July pack size webinar?
Yeah, the answer is no. We have not received any additional information for Northern Ireland. So you can just submit your packages as usual and provide like meaningful information without this national ID. Just submit, okay, this is the pack of 20 tablets and blister alu, and this is the information that we will use. Take into account that the national ID or the national code is helps us and the NCAs to do the mapping, and also will help you in the future. But if there is no national code from this NCA, then we just need to accept the package description that we have.
Thank you. Why? Let's have a last one. So, why data regarding PMS Knaps are not getting updated in PMS for Knaps? For example, we have marked one of our EV code in XMPD invalidate. However, it's still valid in PMS.
So again, this should not be happening. You need to wait a couple of hours to see this reflected in the product UI. If you have submitted something to XMPD and then it has not been propagated to PMS, you need to open a ticket and we will investigate. But in principle, your package should be invalidated. The authorization status of your package should be the one that you have in XMPD.
Okay, so unfortunately, the time for today's Q&A clinic is over. However, as I said, we will look at your questions through Slido and respond in writing to the remaining 16 questions. And please be reminded that next week we will have the follow-up webinar that will last 2 hours. So there will be a thorough demo and a thorough explanation of the key actions, in particular for marketing authorization holders. And the next Q&A clinics that Marcos mentioned, so on 5th of November and 22nd of November. And so thank you, and I leave it out to you, Marcos, for closing.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining. And as Katerina said, we will have additional follow-up meetings, and we will be happy to have you here. So thank you very much, and have a nice day.